Hello, I'm Erica Puentes. This is Hudson Valley's lecture in QBA. This is Unit 6, and we're going to talk about mortgages. As we know, it is in a sort of annuity, but we handle it in a different unit. So this unit is the first video on mortgages/perpetuities. And again, I would welcome you, and I'd like you to pull out your formula sheet, have a calculator handy, and make sure you print out the handout, because I am going to jump over to the handout and going back and forth between the PowerPoint and the handout to make sure that you understand concepts. Again, I will not cover every single problem. I will cover every single concept. So let's jump to the computer. And this is the PowerPoint presentation, quantitative business applications, amortization or mortgages, sinking funds, and perpetuities. Again, here is your formula sheet. We will be using, since we're doing mortgages, and mortgages are ordinary annuities, we will be using the left-hand column of formulas. And your handout looks like this. QBA handout for Unit 6, my initials, and amortization. So make sure you have the correct handout. So we're going to go over to the PowerPoints. So amortization. It's a schedule. It's a list of numbers or a table. The debtor makes periodic payments weekly, monthly, or annually of equal amounts to pay a debt. The payments are part of principal and interest. And part of your Excel project is to print out an amortization. On your Excel project, I give you details of the link to produce that amortization table. You might want to spend a little time looking at that after we go this first set of videos. Examples: amortization schedules, home mortgage. You might, if you buy furniture and make payments, or a car payment. A mortgage. Okay, I like to go over mortgages because I like to think that every one of my students will eventually buy a house. There's two parts of more expenses when you buy a house. At closing. Closing is defined the day that you sit down with attorneys, the seller, the real estate broker, and the bank you're borrowing money from, and you purchase the house. It'll take a couple hours. At that closing, you will need a deposit. Typically, if you own a house, it's 5% of the value of the house. So let's talk easy numbers. $5,000 on a $100,000 house. Okay? I am going to go over some of the expenses. And write them down for you. Okay, so let's purchase price of a house is $100,000. We decide we're going to put 5% down. Down, it could be referred to as a deposit, a down payment. That's $5,000. At closing, we're going to give the bank give the seller $5,000. So that means on the house we owe $95,000. We go to the bank and we've applied for a mortgage. That's the mortgage amount. Right now, mortgage rates are about 4%, and let's say the term, 30 years. That's how long? Term. Okay? The day we buy the house, our equity is $5,000. So we essentially own the garage. That's about it. Okay? So we get a mortgage, and we're going to get a mortgage. The bank is going to tell us we're going to have a monthly payment. So this is what you have to be prepared at the closing. That day you buy it. You need that $5,000 deposit. You have to pay your bank attorney, your attorney, and you want your own attorney to represent your interest. The bank is going to make you pay their attorney. Okay? You are going to, the seller has already paid some taxes. Well, if you buy it in June, you owe half the taxes. So you might owe $5,000 in taxes, half the taxes, because they've already been prepaid. You need to pay the seller back. You have to pay, let's see, some other cost you might have. Let's go over the other costs. I'm going to write these down. Title, title insurance. Let's talk about title insurance. Title, or they call it title insurance. You pay another attorney to investigate the property to make sure there's no back taxes, or maybe the previous owner repaired the roof and didn't pay the roofer, so the roofer put a lien on the house. So that cost about $1,000. So at closing, on this property, you need about $12,000. Okay? That's the day you close. Let's talk about your monthly payment. And this is what we're going to talk a lot about in QBA. Let's, for example, you find out your mortgage amount is about $600 a month for 30 years. You also have other costs. The bank does not trust you to pay your taxes. So they are going to accumulate taxes, and that might be, if let's say if it's, let's say your taxes, let's do easy numbers, $12,000 a year per year. So every month they want to accumulate $1,000 to pay your taxes. They also don't trust you to pay your insurance, because the day after you buy it, if your house burns down, the bank owns $95,000 of the house, and you only owe $5,000. So they want to be sure they can get their money back. So they make you, let's say your insurance is $600 a year, so you have to pay $50 every month to the bank, and they will pay your taxes. They will pay your insurance. There's a new fee that the banks charge. It's called PMI. It's an insurance policy. Because you've only put 5% down on this house, they are a little nervous you're going to default on your payment. So they are going to charge you about $100 a month for this insurance policy. So your real monthly payment per month isn't just the mortgage, it's going to be $1,750. That's what you have to be prepared. Now, this PMI will go away when you've paid off 20% of your house. In this case, in other words, when you have equity of 20% instead of 5%, they will waive that PMI insurance. Okay? So I just want to give you a little rundown about a mortgage and how a mortgage operates. So let's go back to our PowerPoints. So your monthly payment here is made up of the principal and interest, tax escrow, insurance escrow. So let's go to question 5. You purchase a house for $150,000, pay down $30,000. You get a 25-year mortgage at 4% converted monthly. Always, always, always when we're talking mortgages, you calculate NI, present value, and then the payment. Always. That's the first thing you do. Even if I don't ask you for the monthly payment, that's the first thing you do. So N is 25 years times 12, or 300. I, it's 4% divided by 12 because it's a monthly payment. Please remember, I've seen very often students forget to calculate I. Present value. You bought a house $150,000, you put down $30,000, so your present value is $120,000. Your equity is $30,000. We want to calculate our payment given our present value. If you want to pause and double check the formula you'll choose, you can do that. But otherwise, substitute in our present value, I, and N as our negative exponent, and our monthly payment of principal and interest will be $633.40. So let's look at how much total interest you pay over the term, over the life of the mortgage. Well, you're going to make 300 payments, aren't you? 300, N is 300. You're going to make 300 payments of $633.40 for a total out-of-pocket $190,020. But your principal you owed, or your present value, was only $120,000, so you paid $70,020 in interest. This is a typical scenario. This is a typical interest rate, a typical mortgage. Let's go ask another question. We've done this in the previous unit. C, what is the outstanding principal after 5 years? So here's our timeline, 0 years to 25. We're paying off this mortgage. But we want to know the value of, how much of the principal we owe to the bank after 5 years. I've said this many times. We want to find the present value. We come back and find the present value. In order to find the present value at 5 years, you have to find out how many payments are remaining. In other words, what N is. What is N? For the remaining. Well, over the lifetime of the mortgage, there's 300 payments. We've paid 5 years of payments. 5 years times 12 months, we've paid 60 payments. So 300 minus 60, we have 240. From 25 years to 5 years, there are 240 payments left. So we want to know the present value given the payment, given N is 240 and I is 0.0033. So the present value of what we owe, the remaining we owe is $104,525.21. Let's do, I want you to pause it right now and find out, instead of the outstanding principal after 5 years, I want you to find it after 6 years. Pause the video. What's going to change? N. So on the next slide, it tells what the outstanding principal of 6 years. So at 5 years, we owed about $104,000. At 6 years, what we owe is about $101,000. So E, notice what E said. What is the reduction in principal during the 6 year? Between the 5th and 6th year, how much did we reduce the principal? Well, we know what the principal was at 5 years of the mortgage. We know what the principal was at 6 years. Here's the principal at 5 years. Here's the principal at 6 years. If we subtract those two, that difference, 3480.21, is the reduction in principal. That's how much we reduce the principal of the mortgage. How much did we pay out of our pocket between the 5th and 6th year? Well, we made 12 payments of $633.40, or out of pocket we took $7,680. We reduced the principal by $3480.20, so therefore $4,120.60 was our interest that we paid between the 5th and 6th year. And that's a calculation your bank will do every single year and send it to you, because this interest is tax deductible. Very important, it's tax deductible. In fact, I'm going to make it red. It's so important. And they will send that to you. Now on number 7, I ask the same thing. Okay? I ask, how much did the 12 payments during 2004 reduce the principal? So therefore, between 12/15/03 and 12/15/04, you have, on both of those dates, you have to find the present value, subtract it, and on this slide we show how much the principal was reduced by. So I would like you to pause it and do these two slides. Now, owner's equity. We briefly talked about that. Owner's equity is the amount of asset you own in dollars. Okay? When we bought that $100,000 house and we put $5,000 down, you had $5,000 in equity. However, as you make payments, your equity is going to increase. You're paying off the mortgage. You own more of the house. The bank owns less of the house. And that's called an amortization schedule. So I'm going to show you one right here. You purchase the house for $150,000 and you put down $30,000. So on the day you close, you have $30,000 in equity. Let's go to your first payment. Your first payment is $2,000. Okay? Part of that $2,000 is interest, part of it is principal. You owe $120,000. You were paying interest on $120,000. How much interest? $1,900. I didn't give you the interest rate. These are made up numbers. You're paying $1,900 in interest. Well, if your payment's $2,000, you're paying $1,900 in interest, you're only putting $100 towards the principal, into reducing the principal, because interest and principal will always equal $2,000. So therefore, after this first payment, your equity goes from $30,000 to $30,100 because you have put $100 towards the principal. So your equity is now $30,100. Let's go to the second month. You still make $2,000 payment. However, you don't owe $120,000. Your interest isn't going to be charged on $120,000 anymore. It's going to be charged $120,000 minus $100, or 119,900. So therefore your interest is going to be a little bit more. So of the 2,000, 1,890 is interest, and if you subtract those two numbers, the difference is what you put towards the principal. So this principal is added on to 30,100. So now our equity is 30,210. I would like you to pause the video and fill in these 4 question marks. There's your answers. If they don't agree, pause them and look where they are. Look where you went wrong. I'm going to do a couple of more amortization schedules for you because they're important for you to understand. Number 9, again, is your present value formula. I'm going to let you do that. 10, we're going to look at an amortization schedule again. You borrow $5,000 to be amortized with 5 quarterly payments, 3-month interval, interest 12% compounded quarterly. Again, I gave you N, which is 5 payments. You need to calculate I, 12% divided by 4, and you always have to calculate the payment. $5,000, 0.03, 5 payments. This is your payment. So now we are going to write an amortization table. And this one explains it underneath each number where it came from. And I will do a few of the first line. Your payment will always be the same throughout the problem. Okay? Throughout the entire term. Interest, how much interest on that $5,000? Well, I was 0.03 times the $5,000. The first quarter I paid $150 on interest. Well, I made this payment. Of this payment, $150 was interest. So to find out how much I paid down the principal, I say payment minus interest, and I get $941.77. Principal and interest must equal payment. How much is the balance remaining on the loan? Well, I initially started with $5,000. $941.77 was the principal I paid on the loan on the first payment, so I subtract those two. So the balance on their loan after the first quarter, it started out at $5,000. At the end of the first quarter, after the payment, I only owe $4,580.58.23. So I'm going to let you figure out these. And then I want you to do this, number 11. I want you to calculate the payment, and I want you to figure out the payment for the first 2 periods, the interest paid for the first 2 periods, the payment on principal, how much goes towards the principal, and the balance on the loan. And after you do that, I would like you to check your numbers with the link on your Excel project. Go to amortization schedule, Google it, and put in these facts and confirm. And here is my results. You can confirm my results are correct. You will have to do this on a test. Now, let's look at this $150,000 loan. How can we reduce it? Let's look at this payment formula. Very important. Let's say my payment was $1,579.84 just for the principal and the interest. I haven't added in taxes and insurance and things like that. That's too high. How can I reduce it? Well, let's look at this first variable, the present value. I can reduce the present value by putting more of a deposit down or increasing the down payment. I can reduce present value by just buying a less expensive house. I want to reduce interest rate. Well, go around to different banks. Look at different interest rate. You can reduce the interest rate. The last way to reduce your payment is reduce N. What's N? The number of payments. If you have a 20-year mortgage, go up to a 25-year mortgage. If you have a 25-year mortgage, go to a 30-year mortgage. Increase the number of payments or the term. 30 years mortgage is about the max that a bank will give you. So don't try to find a 35-year. Okay. I would like to end the first video on mortgages and perpetuities right here. There will be a second video, and we will discuss sinking funds and perpetuities on the second part of this unit. Have a good day.